Well, last week we looked at the rain came down, the water came up, and everything, and chaos reigned, right? And now we're seeing how God is going to start putting things back together. We looked at that last week, and through the decreation, now there is recreation, because that is what God does. That is how God works. And through the decreation, the recreation can happen. And we saw that we finished last week with sending the birds out. And so let's pick up in verse 13. Would someone read 13 through the end of the chapter? And let's talk about that this week.
By the first day of the first month of Noah's 601st year, the water had dried up from the earth. Noah then removed the covering from the ark and saw that the surface of the ground was dry. By the 27th day of the second month, the earth was completely dry. Then God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, and all the creatures that move along the ground, so that they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number on it." So Noah came out together with his sons and his wife and his sons' wives. All the animals and all the creatures that move along the ground and all the birds, everything that moves on land, came out of the ark, one kind after another. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and taking some of the clean animals and clean birds, he sacrificed burnt offerings on it. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. And never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease."
Wow. So we talked a little bit about this last week. You know, when the animals come out, is this chaos?
It's orderly.
It's orderly, right? They went in orderly, and they're coming out orderly. It's these processionals that we see, and it's all about God's purpose and God's plan and God's timing. They've been on the ark now for almost a year. If you go look in count the months, like this is not just, hey, Noah in a boat. Like sometimes we think, oh, Noah was on a boat 40 days and 40 nights, right? No, that's just how long it rained, right? Noah's on this boat a long time. I can't even imagine like on any boat for a year, but especially in this. So Noah's faithfulness continues to be true to the calling that God has given him, and he continues to walk in God's ways each and every day. Now the earth is dry, and then God said, "Come out of the ark." Verse 15. What are the first divine commands here? 15, 16, 17. To go out of the ark, right? Get out. You've been in here long enough, right? And then what? Bring your right. For what purpose?
To multiply.
To multiply, right? To be fruitful and increase, right? That was the divine command. We read it first in Genesis 1 and 2, right? Be fruitful, multiply, grow, right? Be my people. And here we have the decreation, and then the first divine command again is to increase, to grow, right? Continue improving or working out God's purpose. And so they come out. The command was to be fruitful and increase the number on it. And so Noah came out together with his sons and his wife and his sons' wives, all the animals and the creatures that moved along the ground and all the birds, everything that moves on land came out of the ark, one kind after another. And then what does Noah do? So what role is he operating in now? As a priest, right? So he takes on this office of priest in this moment. Who were the first people to act in this role in the Bible? Huh? Adam and Eve probably taught them, but Cain and Abel, what were they doing? They were sacrificing. They were at the altar. They were bringing their fruits to God. They were operating in this priestly role. One was doing it with a heart that was right, and one was doing maybe just what was expected of him, right? Checking the box, meeting the requirements of it. And in that, one is accepted and the other is not, right? And we see that pattern, and that pattern picks up here. And Cain and Abel should be in our mind, because that is where we see the sacrifice and then bringing to God what is due God's. And the first thing Noah does when he gets off the boat is he builds an altar of the Lord. How does he know what is clean and unclean? Leviticus. A little bit after. Right? He didn't have the law yet. How does Noah know what are clean and what are unclean? It's the God.
God had told him to bring extra.
Ah, there we go. Yeah. Hey, bring 7 of these animals, right? Something is special about these animals because you got to bring extra of them, right? So how important are these clean animals? Pretty important. Very important.
It does.
Right. How valuable then are these animals? Very valuable. And so for the first thing for Noah to do, to sacrifice these, there's probably not anything more valuable in all the earth right now than these clean animals. Right? Not a lot of possessions going on right now. Not a lot of family heirlooms being passed down, right? These in Noah's possession are so valuable, right? And it's these clean and I love this. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, taking some of all the clean animals and birds. He sacrificed burnt offerings on it. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, Yahweh said in his heart. What is that all about?
God's talking to himself.
God's talking to himself. Okay. All right. Huh?
I said he's talking to
Okay. Yeah. God said in his heart. God talked to himself before, didn't he? Back in 6, said the Lord regretted that he had made humans belong on the earth, and the earth was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race. Right? So that the Lord was he said in his heart, and he was deeply troubled. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of thoughts of the human heart was only evil, only time. And so God is deeply troubled back in 6. How does God's countenance change?
We hear he's pleased.
Yeah. Yeah.
still recognizes that man is evil.
Oh, that's important. That's important.
Looks like he's getting fixed in grace.
Okay. Right. Right.
He knows that mankind is evil
Yeah.
from childhood.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But this narrative this part of the story brings us back from the judgment, back to mercy and grace. And his grace that continues to pursue and continues to be brought forth in every way, and God's justice, right? So then the question is, does God have the capacity, and would it be right for God to hand over the humans to what they have chosen for themselves?
There's a capacity to do anything God does.
Sure, right.
So, and if God doesn't, it's right.
And wouldn't we say that, well, you did the crime, right? You do the time, right? You did this. You deserve what comes from this. And yet God continues to pour out his grace and his mercy. He's chosen a different course. Now, I want to ask you this. What changed? What changed God's heart? It's so important.
It would be the offering.
It is the offering. It is the offering. It's the sacrifice. It's a heart poured out. It's giving the what was valuable to you to God. This part in the story is so important because it changed everything. Right? God brought them through. God, right? This boat had no steerage, right? It had, it's all him all this time. And when we see God's words change here is after Noah's offering, after a sacrifice, after this altar moment, right?
I have to feel like Noah was communing with God during the whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
He was walking quick.
Yes.
Before the flood.
Yeah.
I'm sure all through the flood, and then he just continued on.
Just continuing on. And the first thing he does, he builds this altar. And he makes this sacrifice, and he pours out the best of what he has, and he gives it back to God. And this sacrifice, are they on a high place or a low place? What do you think? It's a high, right? It landed. So this brings up a whole. We're gonna really kind of flesh this out, especially through the Abraham passages of going to a high place, and it's setting up this tiered system again that we've been talking about.
Usually the offerings and altars were set up on high.
Yeah, absolutely, right. To be, that was in that thinking, that's being in God's presence, closer to God's presence, because the higher the tier, the closer you are to his space. And so they're on this high place, and he's sacrificing these very valuable animals. And the sacrifice deals with the disconnect, and it deals with the inclination of the human heart. And having clean animals is this way of saying to God, you are worthy of the best, and these clean animals aren't considered without defect, without all the things that those that chew. We learn all about that in Leviticus, right? All the reasons that unclean animals are the way they are. They chew the cud, or they don't chew the cud, or they have a split hoof, and they right. But it's not how. It's what it means for Noah to know he has something valuable, and for him to want to offer that. And it really talks about the wickedness of the human heart is covered when one righteous intercedes and surrenders what is most precious to show his surrender to God's purpose. Right? Something changes in this scene, and the whole thing shifts. Because this, right? So there's been sacrifices before, but now we see the first atoning sacrifice. And this is important. Michael Morales, he wrote a book called The Tabernacle Prefigured, and it's a lot of where I've got some of the ideas of how the temple maps on to the garden, and how this ideas of the closer you get, or the closer into the tiers you get, the closer you get to God's presence. And he makes this quote here. He says, salvation through the ark does not fulfill the meaning and destiny of Noah's name. Remember, Noah's name means rest. Rather, Noah is saved in order to worship, to offer the sacrifice that causes God another repenting. And that repenting doesn't mean God did something wrong. A repenting means to turn. The Hebrew word there is shuv, to turn. Something changed God's countenance. And it's this sacrifice that we see. That is a rest and a comforting. That turns curse into blessing. Noah's priestly mediation is the means by which relief from the toil of the cursed ground became a reality for God as well as for humanity. Noah is the consolation for the fall of Adam. Right? Adam fell, and now here we're seeing Noah's putting things back together, and he's doing it on a high place. And we see that God's heart was changed here. And we kind of talked a little bit about it. Did the human condition change? Does God know that?
Yes.
He does. So in my thinking, I'm like, God, if you already know that things are going to get bad again, Why even do it?
Because we're his children and he loves us. Think about your own children.
Yeah,
Now, sometimes, no,
yeah.
I know my teenage kid's gonna really do some dumb stuff, but I love them anyway.
Right.
Right? So
Yeah.
it's that idea.
Okay. That's his image bearers. We are his image bearers, and it's so funny. He's like, I know they're still gonna fall short. I know they're still gonna pursue their evil interest, but I'm still going to extend my mercy and grace. I'm still gonna bring them through this, and it's just so interesting.
I think it's interesting too that never again will I destroy all mankind.
Yeah, yeah, by water. Mm-hmm.
What I love about this passage also is it talks about and it highlights what we understand about original sin.
Yes.
We
Yes.
are depraved people because of Adam.
Mm-hmm.
It's Eve's fault, we know that. But it's Eve's fault. We have this part, but what we see in the sacrifice is it's not about that clean earth. It's about the heart. And we have to have a personal relationship with Christ.
That's it.
To have that sweet aroma.
So important. That sweet aroma of the sacrifice changed. And that is just so true for us today. And as I read this passage, that just becomes so important. It's Noah's heart that really makes the difference here. And so we're here to ponder, just like Pastor Ken was saying, if the one sacrifice can cover the sins of the many. Noah's a few years before his time, but he's setting the pattern that will come. The one sacrifice will truly make all the difference. Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. So when Jesus died as the sacrifice on the cross, did the human condition change? It didn't, did it? It didn't. But the path forward changed, right? But the opportunity changed, the gift changed, and everything was brought into line. And we see this over and over. Abel, Noah, Abraham, Moses, they all go to the high place to offer a sacrifice. And it shows how even in a depraved world, even in a world that continues to be bent on evil, it shows us how this seed of the woman that we talked about will defeat the seed of the snake. And it's through these that are willing to say, this is how I'm going to live. It's the Joshua moment. For me and my house, we will serve the Lord. We will offer our sacrifices. We will come to the altar and give up ourselves to see God's purpose brought through. Right? We talked a lot about remnant last week, and those remnants of people willing to do what God has asked them to do so that his purpose and plan will continue to march forward. What did verse 22 do in your Bible? Huh? Turned into a poem. It's so cool. God sings a song right here. Because of what Noah did, as long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. God ends this section singing a song. Noah's sacrifice caused God to sing a song. I just picture that. The creator, the sovereign God, is moved to sing a song because of what Noah did here. How should that change our daily life? How does God feel about this sacrifice? So good. It's so good. It reminds me that we were created to worship. That is part of the purpose. That is part of the plan from beginning, is to worship. We were created to worship. And when we worship, good things happen. Really good things happen. go to verse or chapter 9. Someone read 1 through 5.
And God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth. The fear and dread of you will fall on all the beasts of the earth and on all of the birds in the sky, on every creature that moves along the ground, and on all the fish and the sea. They are given into your hands. Everything that lives and moves about will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything. But you must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it. And for your lifeblood, I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting from every animal, and from each human being too. I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being.
Thank you. All right. So there's a new standard being brought forth. What's the new standard?
Yeah, no more vegetarian.
Yeah. Was there any meat allowed to be eaten till this point?
Nope.
Now that doesn't mean just because God didn't allow it doesn't mean people won't do it. But at this point, right, eating meat wasn't even acceptable to God. And now God changes the standard, right? And so what we see is that as humanity continues down this path of disobedience, God continues to put things in place to bring them back to wholeness, right? And you can see through this passage, through the Torah, all the way through the Bible, that the God's plan, right, is to bring back to wholeness, right? To what we would call holiness, right? To take things that are not the way they are supposed to be and put them back to the way. And he keeps bringing these things there. But the garden was the ideal, right? Genesis, 1:29 and 30. That's the ideal. Then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food, and to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds in the sky, and the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it. That's the ideal, right? He says, I give you every plant, I give you every tree, I give you everything that you need, not only for you, but for every animal to survive. And in the ideal, no creature had to exist at the expense of the life of another creature. That is the Eden ideal. Nothing else had to die for something else to live. That's pretty cool, right? That's pretty neat. That's the Eden ideal. And now God makes a new standard because he sees the human desire to shed blood. So we got sacrifice, and now he allows them to eat the animal flesh. Here in 9. He says, but you must not eat what? What's that all about? The life is in the blood. And that was certainly how ancient readers were to understood it. Without blood, there is no life, right? And the blood of a creature was its life, was its everything about it was brought forth by the blood. And by not eating the blood, I am not taking its life, is what God is saying here. Its life, its blood belongs to the Creator, thus the life belongs to the Creator. And that's what he's fleshing out here. The blood is the symbol for life. Go ahead, Steve.
If you go back to Cain and Abel, it was the blood.
Yes. That's
To
it.
God.
That's it. Yeah.
It wasn't the flesh, it was the blood.
Right. And so we see like the Jewish kosher laws, right? What do you have to do before you can sacrifice that animal? You have to drain the blood, right? The blood has to be out. And what is the blood used for then at that point? Onto the altar, right? It's sprinkled onto the altar. And what is that doing to the altar? It's cleansing it. That doesn't seem real clean to me. I'm just saying. Like, that's not a great smell that's going to be coming from the altar there. But in that, the blood of the creature that died for it is cleansing the altar. Let me ask you this. Why does the altar need to be cleansed?
Just a lot coming on. Because that's when we pour out our sin.
That's it. It's exactly it. When the sin is brought to the altar, right? And then the blood cleans and cleanses. And just sets up the Jesus narrative all over again, right?
Which is extremely behind it. You know, it's not multiple blood, but it's his the blood that we are allowed to.
You're right. It's the cleansing blood. Because there is power. Huh? Right. Yeah, exactly. And you're right. Cain shed that blood, and that blood, the blood is what? The blood in the ground is what calls out to God. But I want you to see this. This is not a command to eat meat. This is a concession. This is a concession. Eden is still the ideal. And the question becomes, what would a world be like if there was peace with all creatures? I think there's something in our nature that wants to be connected with all of creation, creatures included, right? We're socially conditioned to connect with animals. My brother, he's an animal lover. Like he loves animals so much that they don't even know that they're being loved. He has a jungle cat, and he's just wanted to love on this cat. This cat hates him. It does. It hates him, but it doesn't stop him. He's like, oh, he will love me. But we're conditioned to want to connect with animals, right? And we can talk about who's cat lovers and who's our dog lovers and who's our horse, but we know that there's this connection. Do you think that connection's a coincidence? No. It raised the question, what would it be like? We looked at the Easter prophecy last week. Let's look at the Christmas prophecy this week. Go to Isaiah 11. Someone read 1 through 9 in Isaiah 11.
The shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his root, the branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of power, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. And he will delight in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes or decide by what he hears with his ears, but with righteousness he will judge the needy with justice. He will give decisions for the poor of the earth. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. With the breath of his lips he will slay the wicked. Righteousness will be his belt, and faithfulness the sash around his waist. The wolf will live with the lamb. The leopard will lie down with the goat. The calf and the lion and the yearling together, and the little child will lead them. The cow will feed with the bear. The young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The infant will play near the hole of the cobra, and the young child put his hand into the viper's nest. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Or an upward to 11.
No, that's it. That's it. All right. So who's this talking about? Jesus, right? This is the Jesus prophecy. And when Jesus comes and brings his full peace, what happens? Creation.
It goes back to Eden.
Back to Eden. Is there any life? Is there any animal that has to die for the sins of the other? Go ahead, Louis.
Order comes back into place.
Order comes back into place, right? The most violent animals at this moment can be with the most vulnerable again, right? And it's not just, the snake is no longer a threat. It's not just animals and humans that have issues, right? And verse 5 talks about righteousness will be his belt and faithfulness. Then the wolf will live with the lamb, the leopard will lie down with the goat, the cow will feed with the bear, right? And it's just,
Was it like that before the flood?
Yes,
And then after the flood, all the animals have hearing mass.
that's right. I think that's what we're meant to see here and what this is telling us and what the narrative is telling us here.
Yeah, even on the ark, they had to lay down together to do.
That's right. That's right. The ark doesn't work if that is not the case,
Yeah.
right?
An inventory.
And did any animal have to fear man until now? They didn't. They didn't. Yes.
A lot different.
Okay. Sure.
It's like, just keep reading.
At
least that's what seems to
yeah, I think it's, yeah. Things are brought back, but does that mean they're perfect? Are we back to Eden here? We're not. We're not. And yeah, so I think you're right in that, Kelly. And verse 5 says, and for your lifeblood, I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting from every animal. And for each human being too, I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being. The rest of Genesis, as we'll read it, deals with hostility between brothers, hostility between people, just hostility, right? And people talking, but the blood is what makes the difference. God is the giver of life. We are called to steward it. Can we create it? We cannot. We must steward life as well. And man, so much of Genesis, God puts such a high emphasis on life. And, we should, as stewards, as caretakers of God's creation, should have such a high emphasis on life all the way around, from birth, from conception, not from birth, from conception through grave. The God's people, God's church should be the ones stewarding life. But as we saw, starting with Cain and Abel and all the way through Lamech, humans start to think they can give and take away life, right? At this point, who decided whether people lived or died? It was God. It was only God. And now when humans start trying to usurp God's authority and start deciding, how many of our prayers this morning were about life taken that shouldn't have been taken? And in that moment, this all kind of breaks down, but there's always a plan to bring it back. And it's these decisions that we make when humans start thinking they can do it or they can decide who lives and who dies, right? We start taking back what is God's.
Act gives the command that if anyone is killed,
Yes,
their life is required.
their life is required. Yep. I will demand an accounting from everyone, right? I think that's precisely why God requires the murderer, the blood of the slain, right? God pays attention to the victim and he holds the murderer accountable in God's way, not in our way, right? We have different ideas.
Not only human, wild.
Right. Yeah.
Human.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to finish this. This is a quote from C.S. Lewis, and he's talking about the image of God. He says, "It is a serious thing to remember that the dullest and most uninteresting person you can talk to may one day be a creature which, if you saw it now, you would be strongly tempted to worship, or else a horror and a corruption such as you now meet, if at all, only in a nightmare. You have never talked to a mere mortal. Next to the Blessed Sacrament itself, your neighbor is the holiest object presented to your senses. If he is your Christian neighbor, he is holy in almost the same way, for in him also Christ," he uses the Latin here, vera latitat, what means truly hidden, the glorifier and the glorified. Glory himself is truly hidden. What C.S. Lewis is saying, when we look at our neighbor, we look at someone next to us, we should be seeing the holy image of God, especially if they're a believer, right? And so for someone to take that life, what are they taking? Take the life of an image bearer. And who are image bearers? We all are, right? We all bear the image. To take the life of the image bearer is to try to take something from God. It's to take life from the very thing. That's it. We can kill people in a lot of different ways, right, Kelly? You don't have to just end their life. We kill people in a myriad of different ways. And this just tells us how we treat our neighbor. And Jesus sums this all up, right? Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself. And it's all connected here. And how we treat other people. And how we steward the image of God. And if I understand someone else as an image bearer, there's no way I could treat them with anything but respect and honor and love. When we forget that is how we can start treating people differently. And I think that's truly what we're seeing here in how God responds to human life and how important he thinks it is and what it means to walk side by side with image bearers. There's a good place to stop. We'll pick up in okay.
So situation. And pray, and things don't change,
Right?
and the attacks continue to keep coming. Okay, to pray and walk ahead, and it's not killing their spirit,
That's right.
but we're uplifting our young children's spirit.
Absolutely. Right. And remember, all this started by the God of bringing justice. God is a God of justice. And that doesn't mean that people don't deserve, right, to find judgment. It just means that we'll leave that to God. And we'll continue to walk and treat people as he has called us to do so. And we'll leave the justice to him. And that's important. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for your word this morning. We thank you for Noah in his life. We thank you for the picture that we're given here of how you responded to Noah's sacrifice, how you respond to our sacrifice, our heart, a pure heart that just wants to serve you, wants to worship you, wants to give you our best. Lord, that is a humbling and just what an image that paints for me and for us here today of how you receive us, how you receive our hearts that are connected to you and that want nothing but to worship and praise your name. Lord, may we be a people of worship. May we be a people that whatever we walk through and however hard it is, even if it's a year on a boat, that we will praise your name throughout because we will see that you walked with us every step of the way. Lord, I pray that would be rooted in our hearts today, that we would walk and we would be able to walk out of this place and worship you in every situation, in every way, even when things aren't going the way we think they should be going. We are a people of worship. We bear your image, and I pray that we would realize that emphasis that you place on life, and may we be stewards of life and caretakers of life and help your justice be brought forth in that way. Lord, take us from this place and never from your presence, and help us to continue to worship you throughout the rest of our morning together. We pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen.